Let's bring in Jared Bernstein, former chair of the Council of Economic Advisors under President Biden, and Susan Page, Washington bureau chief for USA Today. Jared, no guarantee that oil prices will go down. Meantime, Americans are paying more and more at the pump, up another few cents from just a few days ago. Fuel surcharges, such as the one FedEx charges when diesel goes around $3.55 a gallon, are now in place, not to mention the lasting impacts of Trump's tariffs. Where does that leave the American consumer?
It leaves him and her spending considerably more than would otherwise be the case. If the American consumer was unhappy with affordability before this war, and we know that she was, they're having greater difficulty with that proposition now. The price of gas is up about 80 cents per gallon. If you do the arithmetic, and if you add in some other spillovers, the mortgage rate was last seen at 6.4%. That's a big bump up from just below 6 pre-war. That's a huge spillover that's gotten insufficient attention. Grocery costs can start going up because of the cost of fertilizer. About a third of that moves through the strait. So if you put all the spillovers together, people are looking at hundreds of dollars more in spending per year than was otherwise the case before the war. And that number was already inflated by the tariffs. So it's really just hard to wrap your head around how backwards this administration has been on affordability concerns. Now, you just heard an argument about geopolitics, and we should take that into account. But simply looking at pushing the wrong way on affordability, that's just been a consistent theme of this administration.
Now, just in the last couple of weeks, gas prices are up more than 70 cents a gallon. That's obviously substantial for anybody who drives. Susan, congressional Republicans are on the defense now about these increased costs for Americans. Take a listen to Congressman Michael McCaul.
Well, I think when the military objective is done, you're going to see the price of gas go way down. I think, again, controlling Kong Island, controlling Venezuela and the oil energy exports there, long term, we're going to have more control over energy in this world than we did before the invasion of Iran. So you have to look at it that way. For a couple of weeks, sure. But long term, it is going to put us far better off for not just my children, but for future generations.
Susan, I heard a lot of ifs there. He's saying if we control Kong Island, if we have more control of global energy, and when the military objectives are achieved. So nothing that is real tangible at the moment. How do you think that lands with everyday Americans?
Well, we do have a clock ticking. The president said that this military action would take 4 to 5 weeks. We're into week 3, but there are no signs that we have reached the goals that he set. Now, he had kind of a mix and match set of goals going in, but he consistently talked about the need to deny Iran the ability to have a nuclear program. That has not happened yet. He talked about regime change. That hasn't happened yet. And it's become very hard, I think, for him to declare the military objectives achieved, especially as long as the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, because that has repercussions, economic and political, through the whole globe, including here in the United States.
Yeah, and for what is what I think a lot of people are asking right now. As you point out, nothing has been secured or made kind of final. Take a listen to Kevin Hassett, the director of the National Economic Council.
America's in a very strong position. They think that they're going to harm the U.S. economy and get President Trump to back down. There couldn't be anything that was a stupider thing to say, because the bottom line is that our economy has got all this momentum in the world, and we've got lots and lots of oil.
Jared, does the American economy currently have momentum enough to offset the consequences of the war with Iran?
Demonstrably, no, because of all the comments we were just making about the cost impacts of the war thus far. I think a lot of people, I know I feel this way, have to be really frustrated with the White House consistently telling us we're stupid for being concerned about affordability issues, higher gas prices that we see twice a block when we drive down the street. They can argue all day that up is down and that their alternative reality, where these costs aren't going up is the real one, but people know that's wrong. And I need to make an important point. I've been listening to a while in our broadcast so far about administration officials saying somehow a bunch of new oil magically appears on the market after this war is over. That's not at all the way it works. I mean, we have a global oil production system in this world, and when the war ends, it goes back to the way it was before. It's not like Iranian oil was shut in before the war. It was largely going to China and India. So this just gets us back to where we were before. There's no new outflow of oil that takes the price of gas lower than it was before the war.
And I keep coming back to the fact that the U.S. produces so much oil, and yet we're still paying higher oil prices when over there in the Middle East, what's happening seems like it maybe shouldn't be impacting us here at home. It's just because we're all intertwined.
Oil is a global price. Intertwined is exactly the right word. Oil is a global price. The members of the administration need to say that to themselves about 10 times an hour.
Susan, let me ask you a question you asked your readers this past week. You said, can Trump run a war and a midterm campaign at the same time? How's that looking at this point?
It looks difficult. You pay attention to one or the other. And the best example might be rising gas prices, because the biggest issue that Americans say they're facing today is that issue of affordability, including gas prices and housing prices and the price of health care. And this war, whatever the geostrategic reasons to wage it, are making all those things worse. And we're heading, just 8 months away from this midterm election. You can talk about short-term effects or long-term effects. We're rapidly getting to the point where the midterm election is coming up fast, and Americans very focused on the economy, and Republicans finding themselves on the defensive.
Susan Page and Jared Bernstein, thank you both for the conversation.